Vote at podcastawards.com and nominate the following shows: Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and storyteller drama. This show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard and provides writing tips and art advice from contest judges, winners, and industry professionals for writers and artists wanting to take their next step, along with the needed inspiration to keep on going. Next one, The Centralist in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program. It is not opinion news, it's just the facts so you, the people, can make up your own minds on the different stories reported on. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources. Science and Beyond in the category of science and medicine. Science and Beyond is a true science-based program that explores every aspect of science, from how things work to why we need science, and where science can't explain something, we go beyond to see if we can figure it out on our own how something works. The Outer Realm in the category of society culture. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, with guests who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, and anything else that would be deemed otherworldly. Nothing is off limits in the Outer Realm. Michelle is an international public figure and has spent the last 18 years working in the paranormal. Her co-host Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 9 years experience working in missing children and cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 4 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com.
Good evening and welcome to Monday night segment of the Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Syracusa, and Philip Syracusa. We are broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. You will have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, and get into chat. Subscribe if you haven't. You can go into all of the United Public Radio Facebook stations, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbeam. I can only respond to your comments on our YouTube channel on UFO Paranormal Radio. And if you have any questions for our guest, please ask. So tonight, guys, we have an amazing guest, and we are so excited to have him on. So please welcome Barry Strohm to the show. He is a psychic medium, lecturer, and author of books based on the gift of spirit communication. Barry and his wife Connie have their own show on Power X Radio, and you can find all of their books, all of their shows on Barry's Facebook page, Speaking to the Spirits. And you can find all of his books on Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com. So please, let's welcome Barry to the show.
Welcome, Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. After a lead-in like that, I thought you had somebody else on.
Yeah, so for the listener out there, I met Barry about a month ago at an event, and he has a large amount of books out there, a very intelligent speaker, and he covers a lot of topics I'm very interested in. So, Barry, we always like to ask our guests, how did you get started? Like, just take us backwards a little bit into paranormal.
Well, when I was 60 years old, I didn't even believe in ghosts. I bought an antique gallery in Pennsylvania that turned out that was nothing but ghosts. People working for me started to tell me about all these stories, and I thought they were smoking the wrong stuff or drinking too much. So I had to go back to the store, and all of a sudden things started happening to me. And I had some professionals come in, joined in a professional investigation, and it was phenomenal what happened. There was absolutely no explaining it. I mean, I've got a science background. I've got a business management degree, civil engineering license, minor in statistics. So I'm not real easy to convince on things. Started taking pictures in the store, got some amazing stuff. We were only about 8 miles from Gettysburg. Started going over on the battlefield, taking pictures. It was like they were posing for me out there. Friends told me why don't you write a book? I said, I can't write. Why would I write a book? So anyway, I started putting the photographs together and wrote a short history of the Battle of Gettysburg and showed the ghost pictures with it. Published about 220 ghost pictures in the book. And then I was hooked. Had people introduce me to board channeling. Learned to use a spirit board, and that was how I really started to communicate. And as we progressed with the board, all of a sudden I realized we can do it in my head. So now we just simply do the word channeling, and I speak the words of the spirits, and it's been quite an amazing journey for an old man.
That's pretty amazing, Barry. So I want to back up just a little bit. You said in Gettysburg you took pictures. What were you getting in the pictures?
We started in the store, and I got pictures of apparitions. I took a video of a shadow figure running through the room. Went out on the battlefield, had pictures of soldiers, had all kinds of other spirited things showing up, elementals. Actually took a bunch of pictures of fairies out there, believe it or not. I wound up taking 6 different pictures of angels on the battlefield. So they showed me everything you could possibly see out there, and just kind of started happening.
That's amazing. The pictures alone, just to capture something like that. I remember when I was in Gettysburg, we caught pictures of orbs on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. Big circles all over the battlefield. Oh, is that something that you debunk, orbs, or is that something?
No, absolutely not. I have pictures of orbs with dogs' heads in.
Yeah.
There was a 2nd Maryland Confederate had their mascot killed there at Gettysburg. And I have a picture of an orb at the exact spot where the dog got killed. And you can clearly see the head of a dog in the orb. In my book, I have a page with probably 20 orbs with men's faces in. When we actually had a portal at the store in the basement, and I put video up, so I had cameras on it all the time, and I could actually have the orbs perform for me. I had a reporter there one time, and the orb was there. And I said, would you mind doing a loop for the reporter so they know you're real? And the orb goes around in a circle for him. So no, I guarantee you, no matter what anybody tells you, I mean, there are dust orbs, obviously, but when you got the real deal, there was no doubt about it.
So you're saying that you asked the spirit, which is the orb, mm-hmm. to communicate by going into a circle.
Yes, I asked it to do a loop for me.
Wow!
It was a newspaper reporter that he did it for. So I mean, it's pretty good evidence.
Wow,
but that's amazing evidence. Was there any recorders going on at the time?
I had my cameras on, sure.
Did you capture any EVPs, voices?
I have some phenomenal EVPs from the store. We had a spirit by the name of Jeff Silverman there. And we could speak to him using a ghost box. Amazing answers that he would give. I have an answer from him, and it's I have the video up on my YouTube channel where we were doing the session, and you can hear him say Silverman just as loud as I'm talking to you here.
Wow.
Okay. So where do you think, from communicating with the spirits, mm-hmm. where do you think, or where are they telling you that they go? Where is that next level through that veil?
Well, heaven's got 7 realms, and heaven's all around you. It's not, the different religions would like you think it's this place in the sky, but it's not. It's just this other dimension. It's the spirits are all around you all the time. When we do the radio show, I ask for the spirit guest to come in, and he stands by me here, and he answers my questions during the radio show. So it's not one. It's hard to explain. There's different dimensions out there, but the true realms of heaven, there's 7 different layers in it, and one below. They all tell us there's absolutely no hell as we understand it from the Gospels, but there is a lower level of nothingness where they do send the bad guys. And there are spirits that I can't contact. For instance, I could never talk to Hitler because he's out of contact for about 20,000 years. But the concept, there's heaven, and then there are different channels for earthbound spirits. There are those, for instance, if you have a haunted painting, which we did in the store, we had a painting that would talk to us. And that's a spirit attachment. So that spirit hasn't really moved on into the realms yet. There's also a spirit of the unknowing dead, believe it or not. One year on the 4th of July at Gettysburg, we set up a channeling board on Lee's retreat route near the town of Fairfield. And we actually had a Confederate colonel come into us that did not know he was dead. He was in the precise spot he had been in 150 years earlier. And I know a little bit about the battlefield. And I started asking the spirit these questions. There was no doubt that he was just there. He had fought at Willoughby Run. He was under Asher. Asher gets captured. He helps take over control of the brigade, tells me about the fighting they were involved in. When he comes in, we were sitting at this table, and the women were there, and they had baseball caps and shorts on. It was 4th of July. And the first comment that the spirit makes is, "What is this manner of dress? I must be dreaming." And we were actually flying a Confederate flag because we knew we wanted to channel Confederates at that time. So I asked him, I said, "Do you have your men with you?" And he says, "Yes, we're guarding the rear of the column." And we were on the exact route where Lee was, and the column had moved through this spot by nightfall. So I said, "Would you bring your men up here so we can take their picture?" He said, "Will you guarantee my safety?" And I said, "Absolutely. We're showing a Confederate flag. There it is." So he comes up, and I actually have a picture of a Confederate soldier looking at that flag when he comes up.
Wow.
And he had absolutely no idea. It was the 4th of July, and the fireworks started to go off. And he says, "Oh my God, the Yankees know we're here. It's artillery." He thought the fireworks was Yankee artillery. But he had absolutely no concept. His men and that colonel thought they were still fighting the war.
So they think they're still fighting the war, and there's no time in the spiritual world, correct?
Yeah.
Oh no, time is like a spiral that you can move up and down, forward and backwards. And there's no real time on the other side. So that's why you have so many of the spirits are still out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no time. You can communicate. There's 7 levels to heaven, which I've heard that before.
Uh-huh.
So then, are we multi-dimensional beings that we can do such a thing from communicating and being on different levels?
Well, when you're human, you're 3-dimensional. Once your soul passes and it moves into the other dimensions, you become multi-dimensional at that time. So when your soul passes, it can do amazing things.
Are the spirits that you have communicated with throughout the years, are they happy where they are?
Yeah. Most of them are. They all describe heaven as being undescribable. Last night on our radio show, we channeled with William Shakespeare. So he tells us about how he talks to the other famous authors on the other side. And he comes back. I have a granddaughter that likes to watch Shakespeare plays, and they went down to a Shakespeare festival. We had channeled him 2 years before, and he said, "Well, when she goes back, I will go with her." Last night he says, "Yeah, your granddaughter really enjoyed the show down there, didn't she?" So he had gone down with her and was aware that she was at the festival and likes to watch his plays.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So then basically they like being in the physical world, they're just not physical. And they could be in the spiritual world and communicate simultaneously then.
Yeah, pretty much. And this was interesting. The week before on our radio show, we channeled King Richard III. Well, Shakespeare's play Richard III destroyed King Richard's reputation. So Richard was very unhappy, and he wanted the truth to come out about his life. So we followed it up by bringing Shakespeare in and asking him why he destroyed Richard's reputation. And he explained all of that, why he wrote the play the way he did last night. So it was really like this 2-part series where we did King Richard and then Shakespeare. Yeah, I know. I know it's bizarre.
That's fascinating. What's your thoughts on reincarnation?
Absolute, 100%, no doubt about it.
Okay.
I can tell you multiple past lives that I've lived. I even have a story of my last on my one website, spiritspredict.com. I have a page where I tell the story of my last prior life.
Okay.
And it's the research and everything just ties in perfectly.
Okay. Now, I'm a big believer in reincarnation because throughout my years, I've had deja vu. And where I know I've been somewhere, but I couldn't have, but I was, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So my question to you is, because we do believe in reincarnation, and you say you can communicate with spirits on the other side, does that mean when they're reincarnated, you cannot communicate with them anymore because they're now into the physical world?
Correct. When they come back, I can't touch them. I only work with spirits on the other side.
Okay, so then the people you just mentioned that you've spoken to, and that's going back a long time, they were never reincarnated?
No, many of them have had many lives in between.
Okay.
We did Julius Caesar about 6 weeks ago, and he's lived he's lived 3 lifetimes since that of Julius.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, they come back. They come and go. Once you're on the other side, you have access to your book of life, and you understand all of your prior lives, and you know all the lessons that you need to learn if you want to come back in the next one. You make. Do you believe?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Do you believe that we wrote our life out before we're born?
Yes, you absolutely come in with a firm life plan. Your free will determine whether you follow that life plan or not. But your spirit guides will help you lay out this plan, and it has to be approved, and then you're born. And once you're born, then anything can happen, obviously. But your guides will help lead you on this life plan.
So if you're on the life plan, which once again, I do agree because I've heard this before and it makes total sense. What about the people? So let's say I'm ready to be born and I wrote out my life and I'm going to, live to 25 years old and die in a car accident. So now what about the people that we leave behind in the physical world with their hurt and pain?
Good question.
Is that part of this plan that they have to go through that?
Absolutely, because your life plan will be related to other souls. And if you have an early exit, the individuals that are around you have got to learn from that grief that is caused by that. Okay. So there's this huge interaction. Just like my wife Connie and I were sent back to be man and wife. We've been together 57 years now. But the interaction that had to take place for us to come back together was pretty amazing. It happens with animals. I'll digress a little bit for you here. But we had a cat named Bodie that we had to put down like 15 years ago. When I found out that we could do this, I can actually talk to the spirits of animals as well as I can talk to humans. So I asked for Bodhi's soul to come in. And I said, would you please come back to us? We really enjoyed it and would love to have you again. She says, I will return to you in 13 months as a black kitten, and I will find you. Within 1 week of when she says, this black kitten finds us in the most amazing way. And she has the personality she had in her prior life. So it's the intertwining of all these things, even among animals, is unbelievable. I have that story is up. I have the whole story written on my one website, spiritspredict.com. There's a page called Bodhi is Back. If you're an animal lover, go in and read that page, because it's phenomenal how this cat finds us. She's born in Baltimore and finds us in Gettysburg. She's born feral in Baltimore, and the circumstances come together that we find her, and we find her within 1 week of when she says.
That's mind-blowing.
Yes. the story of Bodhi is absolutely mind-blowing.
So, yeah, that's also incredible. So then, Barry, we're going through a pandemic, right? And a lot of lives have been lost.
Yes.
And, as you said, that we write out our life plan.
Mm-hmm.
This is touchy, so I'm going to be delicate with this, but is it possible that these people and who, unfortunately and very sadly have crossed over, could this have been part of their plan?
It can be, because a life plan can have different exit points. You have one final exit point where you're headed home no matter what. But there's a life plan can be very intricate, where there are times that you can pass. So it's very complicated. But yes.
No, I understand what you're saying. I've heard that. I agree with that. There's different exit points throughout our journey here in the physical world, and I get exactly what he's saying.
Yes.
And does that leave the possibilities of wow, I mean, you got to really think about that.
Yes, you do.
So the spirit crosses over. You're a person who can communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they tell you? What they do on the other side?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And what they do
on one of our average radio shows, we need about 50 questions to get through an hour of a radio show with the spirit. So I'll make up the questions and kind of ask them, and I channel the answers. But no, they tell us anything you want to know, basically. We have a chat room, and we let people come in through the chat room and ask questions off the wall. We have no ideas coming. And the spirits answer them.
So do they work? Do they have jobs?
Yeah.
No.
Is it similar to what we live now, or is it back in the 1700s?
It's what you want it to be. You can, if you want to go to a place, you think about it, and you're there.
Oh, okay.
It's if you want to live in a big house, you can live in a big house. It's the higher the realm, the more amazing it is. People in the lower realms, they can't do a whole lot. But as you advance, then you can do more and more. And by the time you hit the upper realms, it must be an incredible place.
So people who commit acts of crime here in the physical world, you said there's no hell. So are they on the first level of heaven, or are they still in between, like a purgatory, or maybe they're just earthbound spirits?
A lot of them will remain earthbound because they're afraid for the judgment.
Okay. So
there are 7 basic realms, but then there's a lower level below the 7. And it's a realm, a dimension of nothingness. And the soul is sent there to contemplate what it wants to do, understands when the decision is made by the guides that they understand they're not going to do it again, they allow them to come out, but they come out having to pay the karma for what they've done. And they go back to the first level and start over. A spirit can destroy 1,000 lifetimes with a bad life, because you have this progression that moves. You learn something every lifetime,
Yes.
And then if you're really evil, you can lose everything that you gained in that time.
Wow. That's really interesting.
So then, is it possible the spirit has to redo the lifetime and get it right?
You'll have to relearn the lessons. Absolutely.
Relearn the lessons.
But that spirit is going to pay the karma for what it did.
Yeah.
Like they might have to come back and reincarnate in poverty in India, for instance, and live under the worst conditions. They have to pay this karma.
So do they have a choice? They absolutely have to come back and pay the karma back, correct?
The guides will not allow them to come back unless they have that life plan that repays the karma.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Yeah, Barry, how should people in the physical world, knowing what you know about the spiritual world, you lose a loved one, whether it's a parent or a child, how should we perceive that? Now, we all, some people think, well, it's over. I'll never see that person again. In your words, how should a person accept that?
Okay. What all of the spirits tell us is that death is the beginning of the new cycle. To humans, death is the end of the cycle. Now, you have to separate grief from reason on this. You have to learn to control the grief of a passing. That's the human aspect of it. But that spirit passes over. It meets all of its loved ones that have gone before. It's going to enter this new life cycle where it can create a new life plan and return. It can make the decision to return, or it can stay over for hundreds of years. But death is the beginning. It's not the end.
I believe that. So then, is it possible that you won't meet up again with a loved one that's crossed over? Because it's possible that they restarted a new life journey of reincarnation.
Most of the souls will stay through the generation. Where everybody catches up to them. You have a soul family.
Yes.
You have souls that come back and forth together. You might be father, son, mother, daughter. You will reincarnate in different capacities through the years. But those souls will generally wait to come back. In rare instances, they may allow them to return. But in most cases, they will just simply wait. Since there's no time, there's no rush for this. So they will wait and help welcome the souls that they lived with. I'm in the process of, my best friend died last year, his fraternity brother in college, and his wife is in the process of passing right now. So I channeled her a message from her husband that's waiting for her. And his message was, when you close your eyes, I will be there. So she's in hospice, and we gave her a very nice message that Dick sent back for her. So
when you close your eyes, I will be there. I like that.
It's sad as it is. It's touching.
So the soul groups, which I believe we come in soul groups.
Yes.
Everything he's saying makes sense.
Definitely.
You have to go through the lifetime. He says that you're not reincarnated, up until the generation is over, which would make sense. And then, so if you're at level 7 in heaven, like the highest level, do you still get reincarnated, or that's the end all? That's where you are.
That is when you're sent back with these very special missions.
Okay.
Oh.
Because you now have all the knowledge that you need to come back on these special journeys. Reverend Billy Graham, 7th level sent back. Mother Teresa, they're all 7th level that return and do all these wonderful things. So generally you see that the overachievers and the individuals that do much good for others are high level souls that have been sent back on specific missions now. Okay. They've learned their lessons. so they can come back and do these specific missions. They're not. The soul doesn't have to keep learning at that seventh point, because you've done many things, literally through millions of years.
So this is another one. In your belief, who was the creator of the souls?
God, the deity. We are told that each galaxy has a God, has its supreme God.
Okay.
And when the universe was formed, the gods all got together and used their energies to create the universe. But there was a universe that came before the one that we're in. And that's basically how all these gods assumed the positions they were.
Okay. And then
it's really wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty wild. So then, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, who created the gods?
The universal energies. Those energies had progressed in the previous universe, and they'd learned their lessons as best they could, and they gained all these powers, and then that universe was destroyed, and through something very similar to the Big Bang, the universe that we know now has come about.
So in theory, there's no beginning and there's no end.
There is no end. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It was all created in the beginning.
So does that mean, because we are energy, does
Yes.
that mean always were?
Yes. Yes. You've always been the same energy. What you did with this energy through the millennium has been totally a decision of your soul.
Okay.
So we've always existed.
Correct. The soul energy has always existed. It's existed in many other forms.
In many other forms.
Now, here's where we're going to get a little tricky for you. Humans have walked the earth for 250,000 years. Your soul energy has been around for millions, if not billions of years. So where do you think those soul energies were before humans walked the earth?
Well, where? Tell us, Barry.
Other planets.
I agree.
Oh.
We have all lived lives on other planets, and that's how we've advanced to the point we are. Human lifetimes are very, very difficult. So you got a chance by being a human to learn much more than you do on the other civilized planets.
Wow.
And since we all have the same soul energy, that's why I have the ability to channel with aliens.
And that is what I want to get into next. That is one of my favorite topics, aliens, because I'm a firm believer. I believe I've had an experience years ago. So Barry, talk about the aliens.
Okay. I was writing my conspiracy book, and I wanted to do a chapter on whether aliens can exist. And we were using a channeling board then. And one night the guides say, we are going to introduce you to a spirit that can answer your questions. And I say, well, why can he answer my questions? The answer was because he was one. So they introduced me to this spirit named Mu, who was a blue alien on a planet called Robe on the far reaches of the galaxy, which no one ever heard of. We channeled him for 2 years, and I wrote 2 books about aliens on the information that he gave me. Now, my wife is an abductee, and we never realized it until Mu told us what happened with her abduction. And while I was writing the book, I saw a real reptilian. So my wife's been abducted. I've seen real ones, and I can channel with the spirits of aliens because they're the same soul energies as you and I are.
So you can communicate. I know you have a book out with aliens. Okay.
Alien spirits.
Enlighten us. Like, what do they tell you?
They've told us almost everything. I mean, I'm not being evasive. They've told us how many types there are in our galaxy, how abductions take place, what their ships are like. I was followed one night on the battlefield by an alien drone. And I took over 40 frames of this thing that was following me. And I actually have the pictures of that alien drone in first Alien book. But they tell us that aliens are here to help us, that humans are a very young culture, and that aliens have been visiting our planet since the time of the dinosaurs. And they have provided guidance through the years. And the first half of my Aliens Among Us book shows proof of historic alien presence. And I channel the answers to these images that we show. Nazca lines in Peru, for instance. Mu told me what they all stood for and how they build them. And we go through all of the different historical things and channel the answers to how this stuff took place. And I had a hard time believing this too. Now I know that you got a blank look. Everybody does when I start this talk. But it's amazing how everything ties together. He told me that disclosure would start in 2020. And it did. I mean, if you're watching now, we're going through disclosure with what's taking place. Everything Mu ever told us is taking place.
Okay, so the sightings that our astronauts are getting, fighter jets are capturing, this is all real. This is real. This is them. These are the aliens. These are the ships.
Real. It's all real.
Okay.
On our radio show, we did Neil Armstrong about a month ago, and he tells us everything that he knows about him. They saw aliens on the back of the moon.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay, I do have a question. So you say the aliens are here to help us. Mm-hmm. Why would they abduct us? And, I would think that, it's not.
Well, yeah. Is it because of experiments? They're learning? What are they doing?
I asked, Mu said, refer to them as learning sessions, abductions. He said in years past, they would abduct people, and his comment was to see how humans were trying to kill themselves. And sometimes during an abduction, they will do healings. There are times that these miracle healings are the result of an abduction. All of a sudden the cancer's gone. Okay. There are people that have actually remembered the process. I spoke at an alien convention one time in Toronto. And I talked to a woman that remembered going through the process. And when she came back, her cancer was gone. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons. But in the past, let me back up for a minute. We've had an agreement with the aliens for our government. Mu said since our 10th president that we've had an understanding. So in the past, they were allowed to do more things than they are now. Because with all the modern semi-modern technology that we have, the information flow is much more. We're seeing many more photographs, more stuff, more information. So this is the way disclosure is going to take place. It's going to take place slowly so that the people can become educated in it. And then we will find out some of the truth of just how long we've been cooperating with alien types.
Okay.
So the agreement then is that they're not supposed to show up over major cities and make themselves known, I would guess.
Yes. They were supposed to remain hidden. They come and go. I'll tell you the quick story about me seeing a real alien. We had an apartment across from the store in Pennsylvania. I woke up in the middle of the night, and we have cats, a black one, so we have night lights on so we don't kill ourselves. And I sat up in bed, and I looked, and I saw this big form standing by the side of the bed on Connie's side. She's sound asleep. And I thought, this is really, I thought I was dreaming this thing. I shook my head and I cleared, and I looked at it, and it was about a 7-foot reptilian with a short nose. And he looks at me and he smiles. True as I'm sitting here, this thing smiles at me. And just like that, he knocks me back out. I wake up the next morning. I mean, did I dream this thing? I told Connie, I said, you may have gone on another little trip last night, because I really think I saw an alien next to the bed. So during this period, we were working with psychics out in Salt Lake City. They were teaching us the channeling board. So I told nobody about the smile thing, because I thought that would get me committed. So that night, we get our friends in Salt Lake with the channeling board on Skype. Now they have absolute no knowledge of what has taken place, okay? And they're in Salt Lake with the board. And I said, can we have Moo come present in Salt Lake? They get the message, I'm here, what do you want? So I said, Moo, did I see an alien last night? On the channeling board in Salt Lake City, my friends get the message, yes, and did you see him smile at you?
Wow. In
Salt Lake City with zero knowledge. So that's pretty good confirmation.
That's amazing confirmation.
So I have I saw one. I really did. They were testing me when I was writing the alien books. They wanted to know if I had any fear of them or not. And I said, I don't think I do. And that was a test. That's what was behind it.
How does this go with religion? If it ever does come out that the government says, hey, we're not alone. And this is it. This is the final step. We are not alone.
It goes.
How does that affect religion?
It goes wonderfully with religion. Because our God is the God of the galaxy. All of these spirits recognize our God. Now, he may be in different forms in the way we refer to him, obviously. But all of these advanced cultures have followed his teachings through the millions of years and have learned to get along with each other. So when you find that the disclosure really comes, you're going to understand the true concept of the single deity and of the hundreds of paths to heaven, not just through one single religion.
When the spirits that have crossed over from the physical world, are they on that? Do they communicate with the aliens in any kind of way, like through telepathy?
Oh yeah, sure. They can speak. The soul energies that they're speaking to may have been in an alien form in their prior life, but they can assume a human form they can assume whatever form they want. It's a miracle place. I mean, you can't describe it.
I agree with you. I definitely agree.
But it's a total wonderful story. When disclosure comes, there will be no doubt about the source, the single deity, however you want to refer to him.
Okay.
Amazing. Now, some people, as paranormal investigators, some people say, well, demons and aliens, there's a similarity there. Fill us in.
There's evil energies and they can take other forms. It's just the humans that's conceiving that they're aliens. They're not. They're evil forms. I've seen evil forms and they're not aliens.
Okay. So there's something totally different.
Totally different.
So they're really demons. Am I correct? Like they're demons?
There's evil energies, yes. It can take forms of demonic. It can take demonic forms, absolutely.
But there's no hell.
No, there is no hell.
So then where do they come from? Well, they always were as well. They always were.
They have been created as evil energies as part of the test for the human soul.
Okay. Gotcha. And so then your thoughts on possession cases, is that real?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen people possessed during some of our sessions. Now, thank God they weren't by evil energies, but I've seen the spirit come in and totally assume what that individual was saying. And the individual at the end would have no recollection of what he said. And when I'm channeling, I'm speaking their words. So in one sense, they are taking over a portion of my body as well.
Using your energy.
Yes, they use my energy to speak.
Now, Barry, many people throughout the years have claimed that they've been chipped by aliens. Many people. So can we talk about that? What's your thoughts on that and why?
I don't know what the reason was. It has something to do with learning. But there can be many reasons for abductions and for being chipped. Most of the people that are being chipped have agreed to that in their prior life, and it's part of a learning process. The aliens do not want us to destroy ourselves. I mean, if you eat Burger King 4 times a day, you're going to have a problem. They are trying to teach us to advance, because there's going to be a time that life will no longer be possible on Earth.
True.
And that if humans are going to exist into the future, they have to learn to travel the stars and reestablish themselves. Mu told me that the Greys lost their planet and that they really have no home planet now.
Wow.
And that will happen to humans at some time. They want to teach us how to learn, how to get. The first step is to get along with everybody. And once we learn to get along, then they will give us these new technologies.
Do aliens walk amongst us?
Absolutely. They walk.
Elaborate.
They walk as shapeshifters, and they walk. Palladians have been with us for hundreds of years. I mean, I knew a woman. She was a wonderful psychic. And, she's passed now, but we were channeling together, and I asked the question, have I ever met a Palladian? And the answer comes back, you're sitting next to one. When my wife was abducted, she was driving her car in Florida. The next thing she knows, she's 3 exits north on I-95. Has no idea how she got there. When we asked Mu how they did it, he said that they put a shapeshifter in her car when they took her up and gave her the information that she was supposed to have. So a shapeshifter drove that car for 3 exits, and then they just brought her back in. It's a lot like Beam Me Up, Scotty. That's really pretty accurate how they do it.
There's been a lot of people saying that shapeshifters are evil. They're not good. They're bad. What is your thoughts on that?
They're not bad.
Okay.
I'm not sure how people get to know shapeshifters enough to know whether they're good or bad.
Okay.
Or maybe there's an evil energy that is, maybe a shapeshifter can be taken over by an evil energy. I don't know that much about it.
Okay.
But they're not. They've been with us forever.
And shadow people?
They what?
No, and your thoughts on shadow people?
Oh, shadow people. That's just a spirit that hasn't passed. It's just another form of earthbound.
A spirit that hasn't
moved forward. They've just remained earthbound.
Okay.
It's just another form. You can see full-bodied apparition. You can see shadow. You see orbs. An orb is the most effective form for energy. So that's why you see most orbs mostly. The most difficult is full-bodied apparition.
Yeah.
Right. And the cattle mutilations that they claim are perfectly done, those, and your thoughts are from aliens?
Yes, research. and that was part of the old agreement. So we're not seeing as much of that now. So they don't, but they're looking at the food chain. They're trying to understand what we're doing wrong and what we need to change.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, this is fascinating. I'm blown away by your knowledge. and you're saying, like, you're getting this information from the spirits, the aliens. And it all makes sense because, throughout my years of experience and then having many, many guests, you have your own show. So you know that it's all similar, what you're saying, all these things. And the 7 levels of heaven. There are beliefs in hell. You don't believe in hell, at least there's no hell. So, there's a question, I guess, what do the people experience? We do study near-death experiences that people have crossed over and they're brought back on the table. And some people say, yeah, the other side is just, you can't describe it in words. It's just so beautiful and perfect. But then there's other people that come back and say, I was tortured and I came back to learn a lesson. What do you think about that?
I really don't know. I can't imagine that the soul is tortured. I know that when the soul returns, it's a painful process when they send it back, because I had friends with near-death experiences, and they said when they came back, it was very painful. But I just don't know. I'd never heard of anybody being tortured in a near-death experience.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about your books as we're getting closer to the hour. Spirits Speak. All Barry's books, I believe, are on Amazon, correct?
Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, right?
And Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. If you want a signed copy, you got to come through one of our websites. But yeah, a couple of them are on
the life of Jesus. Channeling the life of Jesus. I like that.
It was.
Talk about that just a little bit.
Well, as you know, the Gospels don't cover the life of Jesus. They basically talk about 3 years in his life as his ministries. The reason is Jesus lives a normal life. So there really was not much to talk or write about. Jesus gets married, has children, lives this normal life. And then when he's 28 years old, he moves on to his life plan. And in 3 years, speaks the words that changed the lives of millions for thousands of years. But in those initial years, Jesus lives a normal life. Nobody wants to believe it, but you can't prove it. He did anything else. There's stories. Some of them say he goes to China. They think he goes to Great Britain. He doesn't. He lives his normal life with Mary and Joseph. When he's 15, he travels because what he told me is that he wanted to see for himself and have the same feeling that a human would feel being among the very poor. He travels around the Mediterranean area. At 18, he marries, has 5 children. His family has kept a complete secret because they fear that if the Romans would find out that he has a family, that they would kill the family. So the only disciple that he ever tells is Peter. Peter is the only one who knows he's married through the whole thing. And afterwards, the family moves further away. Mary and Joseph go with them as grandparents and help raise the children. So there's so much about his life that becomes absolutely believable when you hear it. He actually does more miracles than what are in the Gospels, but that all takes place in the 3 years of his ministries. We have chapters where we channel with his mother Mary. We channel with Joseph. They tell us the story of the birth is wild because when Jesus comes back, he sends many of his souls from 7th level with him to serve. So everything is laid out. The story of the wise men. We're used to seeing them coming up to the cradle. The wise men don't really show up until Jesus is 3 months old. And when they come, there's like 50 or 60 of them, because these people travel with security. It was very dangerous. They had to go meet Herod first. And when they come to Mary and Joseph, they do give them the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh. And the reason is that Mary and Joseph have to flee with the baby to save its life. And they use those presents to fund their life in Egypt until it's safe for them to return to Judea. So everything becomes just so reasonable when you actually read about this. And I really enjoyed writing the book, but I learned so much. But the main lesson is he lived, and it is an incredibly normal life and reasonable story.
Amazing.
Well, Barry, this has been a great show, and you're very, very knowledgeable. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Yeah, tell everyone where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Okay. Easiest, we have a YouTube channel in my name, Barry Strohm, S-T-R-O-H-M. I have 160 videos up. You can see all of our shows, all of our channelings. I have a website called spiritspredict.com and a website called wordsofgodthenandnow.com. We got a Facebook group, a ton of pages on Facebook. One of the Facebook pages is called Words of God Then and Now, because we got that when we were writing the book about his life. We are doing a podcast that is called A Weekly Message from Jesus. And he brings us a short message every week, and they're absolutely wonderful messages. They tell, like he talked for one show about death, tells about it, how it's the beginning, explains how grief intertwines with it. But all these shows are up on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Not too hard to find.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Barry, your abundance of knowledge. Everyone, again, he has many, many books out there. You could tell he's very knowledgeable in what he's speaking about. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Aliens Among Us, The Afterlife, What Really Happens, all the favorite topics that everyone wants to hear about. So definitely get the books.
Yes.
He spoke the words. Now let's read about it. And we're going to have you back on definitely in the near future. And we really appreciate this, Barry, because a lot of takeaways from this show tonight as well.
Yes, definitely. And we also want to.
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the show. We love them. Thank you very much. And join us next Monday night on United Public Radio on 105.3 FM from New Orleans. So thank you, everyone, so much, and have an amazing night.
Thank you, Barry. Everyone
Thank
have
you,
a great
Barry.
night. Be safe. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Barry.
Bye.